Good morning, Sac City. Welcome in to another edition of the Sac City Podcast. I am your host, the one and only Vinny Milani, joined, as always, by my best friend in the whole entire world. He is Aaron, the Mukesiah Mukes. Below us, we have your boy, my boy, and everybody's boy, AJ Johnson. And this just is not just any old Sac City Podcast episode. This is the Fantasy Drive presented by the Sac City Podcast, where we are here to help you win your fantasy leagues, win your matchups, win your championships, head home with the gold if you stick with us. It is November 1st. We are here. October has come and gone. 2 months through the season. Lots of fantasy talk to recap for week 8, as well as looking ahead into week 9 with our rankings and our waivers. Gentlemen, how was your fantasy weeks? Was it a good week all around for the Sac City?
More wins than losses.
It was for me. I only lost. I think I lost one fantasy matchup this week. That I was obviously I still have dynasty leagues that I'm tanking in, but one that mattered. It was a great week. I mean, when you got guys like Christian McCaffrey and Alvin Kamara all over the place, you're bound to have a great week when you see 40-point games from guys like that.
Yeah, I had a matchup. I was slated to lose by like 20 to start, and going into Monday night, we were about 3 points separated from each other, and I had Joe Mixon and I want to say T. Higgins at the same time, and this guy had Chubb and D. Peoples-Jones, and needless to say, he took off. But this was probably one of my worst teams because of injuries, so to be right there with them, I got everybody coming back. I'm making my last push in that league, but I picked that team up late in the season from somebody who quit another league. It was a mess anyway. So where I started, I'm doing pretty good. 3 for 3 in my important leagues yesterday.
You defeated me in the Sac City League on the backs of a
good battle, babe.
It was all right. It wasn't that great from my standpoint. Rondale Moore really was the once I saw Rondale Moore take off, I was like, well, damn, this is happening. Rondale Moore had a big day, and I think that was one of the big turning points in our matchup. What he had, like 30 points in our league. That was
24, 23.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I've won 5 in a row, and I'm just chugging along, just creeping along with my sorry ass quarterbacks. I'm just creeping along.
Well, you have Justin Fields though, right? That's the thing.
Oh, now Justin Fields is a good quarterback. That's what I'm saying.
Now he matters.
And Tua. And but you got to remember the weeks that I was starting Skylar Thompson, and I was in desperate need.
Hey, but Sac City boys represent the Sac City League as we should, sitting at the top.
I started Mike Willis and got 2 points. My quarterbacks are just never doing anything.
Non-existent. Everything else went.
Yeah. Well, week 8 has coming on. We've got some wins. We've got some losses. Let's talk about some things though. And let's talk about the losing sides of things. And I want to start things off by going into the fantasy duds and the players that really crushed teams the most, and which ones are the most concerning. Aaron, I'll go to you first. Which fantasy dud this week is the most concerning?
If I'm being honest, I have serious concerns about Jonathan Taylor. From the standpoint of he was the number 1 overall pick, right? So, and I know we've talked about having letting the draft stock go. And yeah, that's fine. You can let the draft stock go, even though Jonathan Taylor is no longer really a candidate to be the number 1 overall pick, but you still need production. Like you still need him to be something. Otherwise, your team is probably not going to be very good, right? We talk about this every time a big name running back gets injured. You have to have something that says, hey, this player is going to produce. And right now, Jonathan Taylor's just not producing. The fact of the matter is he's struggled as of late. They're not giving him the same workload that he was getting before. His best game came in week 1. Since that point, he's averaging 8 points a game. Like that's just not, it's not going to cut it for your RB1. So I think you have to start looking at Jonathan Taylor as no more than a high-end RB2, maybe. Back in 1 on a good day with that ankle injury is still a problem. We saw him taping it up on the sidelines the other day. So I have some serious concerns about Jonathan Taylor. If you can get Jonathan Taylor off, I would, but you have to be able to get him off for something along the lines of a running back one, back in running back one. If not, you just got to hold him and hope for better days. It's a tough situation to be in, but you don't want to sell too low because obviously the upside is there when he's healthy and when things are going well for the Colts.
Let's find that value. Let's find that bar for Jonathan Taylor owners. Will you trade Jonathan Taylor for DeAndre Swift?
Yes, I'd take DeAndre Swift.
Jonathan Taylor, Travis Etienne.
I would take Travis Etienne.
Jonathan Taylor, Leonard Fournette.
I would take Leonard Fournette.
Wow. Jonathan Taylor, one of the rookie running backs, Dameon Pierce, Ken Walker.
I would take Ken Walker. I would not take Dameon Pierce. I would take Jonathan Taylor.
Well, so that's where you're at. And for everyone listening, and I know I am not the best go-to guy for fantasy analysis, but I would definitely strongly consider moving that because in your trades, you might be able to still capitalize on the name value of Jonathan Taylor and be able to get a Travis Etienne and some more assets to help your team out. That's kind of where I think you can get Travis Etienne and maybe a back end wide receiver 3 for a Jonathan Taylor if you do make him available. I think that's would be a smart move moving forward. AJ, what about you? What dud stood out to you the most? Oh, I muted you. Sorry.
Word. I appreciate y'all taking that time on that because there's a couple that I was looking at, and really, you want to look at the Raiders and look at Devontae Adams, and you know that's an anomaly. Same with Josh Jacobs. You could talk a little bit about Derek Carr, but really he's been pretty okay. So I look for somewhere else. And coming to think about it, man, to me it's going to be Deontay Johnson. And I say it's weird because I spoke about him being a sit coming into this game. I didn't expect him to have a great game against Philadelphia in that secondary, but now it's starting to become concerning because he's still getting the volume and he's still not getting production. You look at the last 4 weeks and he's at 39 targets, no more than 5 receptions on any game. And he had 8.5 in the first part of that stretch. And it's took a 13 target game. Usually you look at a guy like Deontay Johnson getting 9 targets or more, and you're expecting him to at least put up some double digits. And it kind of worries me a little bit that the production's coming. I'm sorry, the targets are coming, but the production is not. That offense is trying to find itself underneath Kenny Pickett. They're trying to do things to get him the ball, but you can't be mad at a young quarterback for actually being able to spread the ball. But when you're talking about fantasy and the production and what you thought you were getting out of Deontay Johnson week in and week out, to an extent, it hasn't been there. You're not hating, but you're not happy either.
Yeah, that's a player that coming into the week, I do remember a sit coming from somebody. And I mean, it's worse than just a sit at this point with Deontay Johnson. Look at
don't go that far. Don't go that far. He still had 5 catches in every game this year, except for one where he had 2 catches, but that was way back in week 4. He's had double-digit targets in 2 of the last 4. Yes, his production, like AJ said, the production hasn't been there, but I don't want to go too crazy as far as saying that it's worse than debating whether you're going to start him or not. He's technically in a flex conversation every week, even with the lack of production.
Deontay Johnson or Tyler Boyd, rest of season?
Rest of season?
Yep.
You have to factor in the next 3 weeks without Jamar Chase, maybe. It's close. I probably lean towards Deontay Johnson just because I know he's on the field and I know he's getting the targets, whereas Tyler Boyd, once Jamar Chase comes back, is going to go back to that 3rd-tier role. But I think that's close. I think that's a close one.
Yeah.
Okay.
If Boyd doesn't find the end zone last night, in his first matchup without Jamar Chase, you're a little upset. But
yeah, it's not like he played great without Jamar Chase. It was 3 for 38. It wasn't, he's had a couple of spike weeks, the Jets, and then last week in Atlanta. But other than that, he's been pretty pedestrian himself. So.
All right. Well, let's talk some winners and losers from week 8. Aaron, who's your biggest winner from week 8?
I'm sorry, I just saw a report that the Dallas Cowboys Jerry Jones owner said things could get feverish as the trade deadline approaches.
Yeah.
he's always selling some Wolf tickets, man. He's the greatest promoter in the sport, man. Yeah. You gotta love him for that. I'm sorry, Vincent. What was your
biggest winner from week 8?
Oh man, there were some big performances from week 8. I mean, you can look at Alvin Kamara and Christian McCaffrey, but I think we expect those guys to be good. I think you have to look at guys like D'Onta Foreman. I'll say D'Onta Foreman. I was going to say
we're even now.
I was going to say Tony Pollard, but I think we kind of expected that when Zeke wasn't playing, so it wasn't that much of a shock that he went off. D'Onta Foreman is just a guy, like I said before. It's going to be a better fantasy play than it is regular football play. I don't think the football impact of what D'Onta Foreman is going to do with Carolina is going to move the needle for their team. But we see it on the field. He's getting the volume, especially that Chuba Hubbard was out. He saw 26 carries. You have to like that. The other guy, Blackshear, wasn't really much of effective when he was in the game. I don't think there's any long-term sustained success here. My advice would be to jump on this D'Onta Foreman train and sell high, get what you can for him and move on, because I don't think this lasts. But you have to – I thought his performance against a subpar Atlanta defense was good. And if you had him this week, you probably got a good fantasy production from your team overall, because he was probably your 4th running back, maybe your 5th running back, a low-end flex play, and you were able to capitalize on that. So D'Onta Foreman was my big winner.
Yeah. AJ, what about you?
I'm going to go in a different route again I'm going to choose Kyler Murray here. And it's not so much just for what he was able to do, but it's for what's now becoming around him on this offense. DeAndre Hopkins with back-to-back great weeks. And, obviously we know DeAndre Hopkins was just suspended. He wasn't injured, so it was likely he came in and became the top-notch performer like he has been. But, DeAndre Hopkins picked up in mid-season form at middle of the season, and it's really good to see, because it does look like it's got that offense humming the way they want to. Rondale Moore was able to find some openings because people can't just focus on they have to spread it out with DeAndre Hopkins being back. And now you're talking about possibly getting James Conner back in the next week or two probably, and that's going to get your offense back to a top notch and full strength with the backups of Eno Benjamin and forgive me, I want to say Deontay Ingram. Is that correct?
Keontae Ingram and Darrell Williams.
Yeah, so having this offense at full force, DeAndre Hopkins looking the way he does, I think Kyle Murray may have some big weeks ahead of him if they can keep this offense going the direction it has over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I wanted to throw an honorable mention in there, and it's an honorable mention just because I'm really saying it, and it's almost like an apology as well. My biggest winner would be DJ Moore. Another big week from him. 21 fantasy points, 152 yards, a touchdown, 6 receptions. Last week he had 7 receptions, 69 yards and a touchdown. Back-to-back weeks for DJ Moore doing that damn thing. And I was a person that was like, I was on the fence about DJ Moore. I was trying to trade him and doing whatever I can to trade him after a tough week 3 weeks ago. And then the following after that, he just lights it up. And then I trade him for Keenan Allen. And I'm now thinking to myself, did I make the right move? Because DJ Moore is just getting better and better and stronger as the season continues. So yeah, PJ Walker loves him. So, and DJ, sometimes in fantasy football, you have to just think about the talent of a receiver, the talent of a player shining through at the end of the day. And that is something I didn't think of. So with that, I am a big loser. Aaron, who is your biggest loser from week 8?
Biggest loser. Gosh, Vinny, you always make it so hard for me.
What?
Look, I don't. What do you mean? Why is it hard? Because when you say loser, like I don't know. We think of different things.
Well, then tell me what you think. That's why I asked the question. that's why I asked the question.
Because disappointment and loser are kind of the same thing in this aspect to me. It's a guy who's basically underperformed, and it's still Jonathan Taylor. Like it doesn't change. So I will go elsewhere though. I will go elsewhere. Let's talk about.
Well, I guess I did already ask. Well, I really asked who was the most concerning. I didn't actually ask who was the biggest disappointment.
But that's what I'm saying. It's like the same. It's very similar to me. But I will say, let's stick to this quarterback and talking about Aaron Rodgers conversation. I think I'll go Aaron Rodgers. I just think it's concerning because the lack of efficiency, the lack of how many times they're actually throwing the football, and his ability to have big games. And I think that's the problem is we're used to Aaron Rodgers coming up with big games at time. And yeah, maybe, it's not like he's not having those like single digit games, but it's just bad. It's just very in the middle, pedestrian style quarterback to Derek Carr, worse than sometimes type of numbers. And we're not used to seeing that with Aaron Rodgers. And so when you have no 3 touchdown games this year so far through 8 weeks, that's a disappointment. He has 4 picks already, which is more picks than sometimes he's thrown in a season. That's a disappointment. He's not throwing for 300 yards. He hasn't had a 300-yard game all season long. That's a disappointment. I just think it's underwhelming for what we're used to seeing from Aaron Rodgers. And when you look at the course of Aaron Rodgers' career from a fantasy perspective, 6, 2, 9, 7, 1, 7, 2, 2, 2, 1, 1. Those are all the rankings where he's finished when he's been healthy. Only 2 seasons he wasn't healthy. He finished 29th and 24th. Every season where he's played at least 15 games, that's where he's finished. Always in the top 8 or 9, and never below 9. This year he's quarterback 18. I think that's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a problem. That's not very unlike Aaron Rodgers. And does it change if they make a move today for a wide receiver?
Depends.
We talked about it last night. You bring in Brandon Cooks. What does that do for his fantasy value?
Oh, it definitely makes his fantasy value go up. Definitely.
Okay.
Can I see him getting into the top 10 rest of season? Maybe back in top 12, maybe high-end quarterback 2, low-end 1, maybe 11, 12, somewhere around there. It's still going to be tough because they still have to figure out what they want to do offensively. And the touchdowns are down. The touchdowns are just down. And so they have to show me that they can do that first. But, yeah, I think if they add a weapon and then get somebody like a Brandon Cooks, as we mentioned yesterday, I think his value goes up a little bit.
AJ, what do you got for biggest loser?
Be great. I'm thinking about some rookie wide receivers. I know it's unfair because, they're young in the game, but I think about the start Drake London got off to and how we thought he'd be a big piece of that offense. And, since about week 4, it just hasn't been there for him. And we talk about this when we have our conversations about Kyle Pitts and just the way that offense runs, pun intended. That's what they do time and time again. So I think I said Christian Kirk, and I hope I said Drake London because that's who I'm talking about.
You said Drake London, yeah.
No, okay, yeah. So after no double-digit games since week 3. The targets were there in week 4 and 5. They dropped off substantially in 6 and 7. 5 targets last week, but only 4 yards, 31. 4 receptions, 31 yards. The production that you once got from the young rookie looking like it was going to trend away for the season hasn't. And then I think about a guy who, goes hand in hand with what Aaron was just talking about, Christian Watson. He was another guy we had big hopes for, and he just doesn't seem like he can stay healthy whatsoever. Finally gets over the hamstring, first play back in the game, goes out for a concussion, and it looked bad. Like he went limp immediately. And, he's part of the reason they invested a decent amount in him. And now it looks like they're hoping to trade for a receiver because he can't get on the field. And despite the good game Romeo Dobbs had, you don't know if that's going to come weekly or if that's just a flash in the pan because there was nobody else to throw the ball to. So, again, I know these are rookies, but, we were looking for some pretty good things out of these guys. And so far it hasn't been what we were looking for.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. Let's play a game now. Let's play a little game here. Normally we do a little buy or sell to cap off our week recap, but I'm going to do a little game. It's going to be keep, trade, cut some players. And some of these players, I'll say their names. Obviously, you're not going to cut. Some of these are obvious not cuts, but keeping and trading, and it falls under those type of guidelines here. First player I want to talk about, Chase Claypool. Last week, 14.5 points, 4 receptions on 45 yards, no touchdowns. Aaron, keep, trade, cut, Chase Claypool.
Standard league. I'm not a fan of Chase Claypool. I don't own Chase Claypool. I'd cut him in every league I have because I don't own him. I would never start Chase Claypool ever. I don't care. Bye weeks, I'll find somebody else that a better flyer than Chase Claypool.
Let me make sure I'm in there. I was like, wait, he can't be that good in this league, but I'm looking at it and I was like, he gets other points for other things in that league. Let me not do that.
You playing in the wild leagues? AJ playing in the leagues where he gets a point for walking on the field. He gets a point for just stepping on the field.
I'm just saying, in the NFL with the injuries, that might be worth something.
That's true. That's true. AJ, I'll give you another one. Keep trade cut Chris Godwin. Last week, 6 receptions on 75 yards. He had a good week. I literally said this. Don't give me that look, Aaron.
Yeah.
Do not give me that look. I know some of these players you're obviously not cutting. Trading, basically, are you trading Brandon Cooks? Or not Brandon Cooks?
Chris Godwin.
Chris Godwin.
Yeah. If you have the opportunity to trade Chris Godwin, I would. I'm not running to trade him. I'm not forcing a trade, but like if somebody's interested in Chris Godwin, yeah, I'd absolutely look at trading him. He's got enough value that you can get something back, mid to high end wide receiver too. And he's in an offense that is going to look for him regardless of how they have been playing. And if it's the truth for what Aaron tells it, Tom Brady is back. So you can sell that. You can sell Tom Brady going to be the guy. Now he's got nothing in his mind. But no, if you can, again, I'm not running out and trying to trade Chris Godwin at every step I have. But if someone is interested in Chris Godwin and they can offer you a high-end wide receiver too, something like that, I look into doing it.
I'm not trading Chris Godwin. He is a high-end wide receiver too, borderline wide receiver 1 in most cases. There is not many guys that are more consistent than Chris Godwin. Let's just say that. We talk about consistency in fantasy football, and you guys get on me because I say Kyle Pitts and he goes up and down, and he's had some good weeks and some real bad weeks. Chris Godwin is never that. Chris Godwin is this. He's he's Brandon Cooks, but better, in a better offense that throws the ball a ton with the passing leader in the NFL who's going to throw the ball every play because they can't run it. Chris Godwin is a hold to me. I would not be looking to move Chris Godwin. Obviously, everybody is tradable if you're getting adequate value, but I don't think getting a wide receiver 2, I'm trading Chris Godwin. He is a wide receiver 2 with upside of it, a wide receiver 1. I think that there are better days even ahead for him, even more as they get their offense rolling. So unless you're giving me an RB1, I'm good off of trading Chris Godwin.
Damian Harris.
No, you can cut him.
Oh,
you can cut Damian Harris.
Yeah,
he has no value. He has no value whatsoever. He's touchdown dependent, and it's Ramondre Stevenson's backfield.
Darrell Henderson.
You almost have to keep him by default
because you can't trade him. Ain't no one taking him, and
you can't trade him. Yeah. You can't cut him because he's still technically the guy. Mm-hmm. But I tell you what, as soon as Kyren Williams is back off of IR, you can cut him.
There you go. All right, that is it for our Week 8 recap. If you missed any of it, please check us out on YouTube at Sac City Pod. Reminder for everyone, we are live at noon on Sundays, giving you fantasy advice, getting you ready for the coming week to win your matchup. We on those shows we have start sits, we have our DFS plays, and so much more. So be sure to tune into those. Let's get into the fantasy stock report and get into your rankings, Aaron. It's time to get into your rankings for Week 9 and look ahead. Obviously, these do change and fluctuate throughout the week, so be sure to be locked in at the Sac City Pod on all of our social media pages. But here we are, Week 9. We're running backs 1 through 12. Austin Eckler, Aaron Jones, Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara, Miles Sanders, and Josh Jacobs at number 6. Josh Jacobs coming off of a tough week, Aaron, against the New Orleans Saints. You have him right back up there as a top 6 running back. You're just chalking up week 6 or week 8 as just nothing to worry about, or what are your thoughts on Josh Jacobs there?
Well, he played the least amount of snaps he's played all year. He only got the least amount of touches he's had all year since week 1. He's still averaging over 4 yards a carry. They just didn't give him the ball. I think they'll realize that that's what they need to do. He's RB6 on the year. I ranked him at 6. I think that's what he is, about a mid to back end RB1, and I think he'll get back on track this week. I don't think there's much analysis here. Not everybody can always score 30 fantasy points. Like they're going to have every player is going to have bad weeks. Like that's just part of what fantasy football is, and we react to each week, and I get it. We rank people each week, but he's been really consistent since the first slow start to the season, double digits since week 3, 3 30-point games in a row wasn't going to continue to happen. I think it's a good matchup against Jacksonville, especially with the fact that they weren't able to protect Derek Carr last week. I think they're going to come and make a point to run the football and establish that first. And I think Josh Jacobs will be fine.
Okay. Let's stay in that same game. Travis Etienne, you have an RB8 this week. Last week he finishes RB7. No more James Robinson there. Is this all systems go on Travis Etienne? This is what he's going to be from here on out, or at least against the Raiders?
I wouldn't say this is what he's going to be, but they struggled against Alvin Kamara. We talked about that. But also you got to remember, we got a lot of teams on buys. So yes, I do think Travis Etienne is probably a back end one as we move forward towards the season. But remember the teams we have on buys. No Nick Chubb, no Kareem Hunt, no Saquon Barkley, no Christian McCaffrey, no Najee Harris. Like there's a lot of guys that we would put somewhere around in these areas, in these top 10, 20 players that are not playing this week. So Tony Pollard and Zeke are out. Like there's a lot. Okay. So some of these rankings are a little bit skewed, but Travis Etienne's a back end one for the remainder of the season, high end two. If you're a little bit concerned about maybe the efficiency at times, or them playing from behind and maybe he doesn't get the volume on the ground or score touchdowns. So, but I think Travis Etienne's a pretty good play going forward, and you can feel confident in that, knowing that nobody's going to take carries away from him.
All right. So this is more on the fact that we have the Browns, Cowboys, Broncos, Giants, Steelers, Niners. There's some good running backs on those teams, all on bye. So you're going to need some plays here, and Travis Etienne is definitely a solid replacement for your Nick Chubb, your Tony Pollards, your Ezekiel Elliott's, your Saquons, all those guys that you can't start this week. Let's move on, though, to your RB13s, 13 through 24, your RB2s here. Ramondre Stevenson at 13, coming off of a massive week in week 8. Jonathan Taylor. That's got to be someone we talk about. That's definitely got to be someone we talk about. Jonathan Taylor at 14, 15, Dameon Pierce, Raheem Mostert, 16, Tyler Algier, 17, Antonio Gibson at 18. I have to talk about Jonathan Taylor there because you just said you just talked about how all these running backs are on bye. You're basically moving guys up because of that. Jonathan Taylor is normally a top 10 running back. I know we talked about earlier on in the show.
There last week.
I know, but this is. I guess I know we talked about it earlier, but it's wild.
Why do we get shocked when players fall? We have evidence. We have evidence that Jonathan Taylor is not an RB1 right now. There's actual proof that he's not an RB1. He's hurt. His offensive line isn't good. The Colts offense is inefficient. Jonathan Taylor's not an RB1. We drafted him to be an RB1. We pray and we hope and we're wishing and we're for that he's an RB1, but he doesn't even have the ability to be an RB1 right now in that offense. And that's the problem. This is not a situation where you have a guy that's underperforming. This is a situation where not only is he underperforming, but he's also banged up. And then the team around him is different than it was when he was the RB1. Jonathan Taylor might not even be RB14. I feel like I'm giving him some credit here with where he's at. I mean, I'm just being honest. He hasn't produced like that. I mean, he hasn't done much. He really hasn't over the past couple of weeks. He's RB33 on the year. It's just a huge disappointment. I know he missed 2 games, but in the games that he has played, he hasn't been playing as many snaps. He's only been playing about 60 to 70% of the snaps. He's not seeing as many touches as he saw last year. He hasn't seen more than 20 carries since week 3. He has 1 touchdown on the year. 1, and the Colts don't seem to be looking like they're going to be scoring anytime soon. He's heavily relying on his touchdowns like he had last year. You do not become the number 1 fantasy player in the NFL and score 6 touchdowns on the year. You got to be upwards of 20, and he is not doing that this year.
Does the firing of their offensive coordinator change things?
Has 0 impact on anything.
All right. Hey, just trying to check, just making sure. Into your running back twos, back into it. Raheem Mostert at 16, AJ, going up against the Chicago Bears. What do you think of that one?
Yeah, I think he has a chance to be higher than 16 this week. I know, Sunday wasn't his best game, but they got down to the Lions faster than most people probably expected would happen, and they started throwing the ball a little bit. I mean, he still had 14 touches, so still the lead back in that offense. And now this week you go up against the Chicago defense that already wasn't great against the run and are now losing Roquan Smith, have lost Robert Quinn. That middle is going to be a little softer. The leading tackler in the NFL is no longer in that defense. I think going up against Chicago this week, Raheem Mostert has his chance to a better day. Even if you want to think about, we'll talk probably a little bit more about it when we get to quarterbacks, but the way they can attack this defense coming up this week, I think the Chicago Bears may be in a bad spot coming up this week, and I think Raheem Mostert and others on this Dolphins offense can take advantage of that.
So it's more of a matchup thing with Raheem Mostert.
Yeah, I just don't think Raheem Mostert has much upside. I agree he's the guy there, and I agree it's a great matchup against the Bears. But if Raheem Mostert doesn't get in the end zone, which they like to throw the ball a lot, especially in the red zone, he's not really capable of putting up RB2 numbers. If you look at his two best fantasy games, he's had 2 games that have been over 10 points. It was week 5 against the Jets and week 7 against Pittsburgh. And both of those games, he scored touchdowns. So if he gets in the end zone, yeah, you probably got him there. Outside of that, his 16 carries, even if he gets 15 to 16 carries, nets 80-something yards. He doesn't get enough work out of the backfield because they don't throw the running backs like that in Miami to really get you high enough value, in my opinion. So I think the upside is capped. So it's hard to – I could never put Raheem Mostert near my RB1 territory. He might get there if he scores, but right. I can't rank him that way just because of the passing volume and then the fact that, again, he's kind of touchdown dependent. In that offense, it's just different. He's playing in a different style of offense. They want to get the ball into Jalen Waddle's and Tyreek Hill's hands, and they do it often. And it's going to be hard for him to really produce at an RB1 level or close to an RB1 level with that type of offense.
Yeah, this is that running back group in Miami. I mean, going into the season, we thought it would be Chase Edmonds. Now Raheem Mostert slides in. I'm not sure I trust any of them. Not to say that they're not going to be able to produce. I mean, like you said, the matchup is juicy for Raheem.
I trust him. Right. He's definitely a starter. Like he's definitely an RB2 to flex play.
He's one of those players that I would feel emotional about starting every week, and you know me and my emotions. Yeah. But
I think he's done enough to show that.
This is why he's not giving advice, AJ. Don't listen to that.
Also true. Also true. One more running back.
Week 3 from Raheem Mostert. Like I can't do it. You might give me that 1 point. I have no shares of any I try to get rid of my Dolphins running backs as soon as possible, and that was.
But I mean, you talk about it all the time in volume, and he's getting the volume. The volume is not an issue. So if the volume is not an issue,
well, first of all, I don't talk about it all the time. I try not to give fantasy advice, so no, I don't talk about it.
No, I mean, but we talk about. I mean, just in general, we talk about opportunity, and
yeah, it's there.
So, I mean. I think you give opportunity and you have to look at somebody like that's getting that much opportunity.
I want to talk about one more running back here, and it's Michael Carter, who you have at 21, matched up against the Buffalo Bills in a good Buffalo Bills defense. But we saw last week they were susceptible to the run. Aaron Jones was able to make things happen. But last week against the Patriots for the Jets, it wasn't too great of a day for both running backs, including newly acquired James Robinson. What went into you putting Michael Carter at 21 this week?
I mean, he's going to get playing time, and he scored 10 points last week. I believe that was still good enough for a back-end wide running back to a flex play. So 10 points is good at running back. Like it's not bad. I mean, at this point in time, you're probably, if you finish 10 on the week, you're probably late back end RB 20s to early RB 30s, and that's going to be a flex play at worst. So he's going to see work out of the passing, in the passing game. I do think I expect him to get some more touches this week. Maybe he gets a goal line carry. I'm okay with Michael Carter. I think if you're looking at a double-digit score at the running back position, you're probably putting him in your starting lineup.
All right. Let's go to the wide receivers here, 1 through 12. D-Hop, number 1. Justin Jefferson, number 2. Tyreek Hill, 3. A.J. Brown, 4. Devontae Adams, 5. And Stephon Diggs at number 6. A.J., D-Hop, number 1. You said something. Tell the people what you told me.
So I was just a little shocked at him at number 1. This is, me, every week I have a nitpicky thing. And this is my nitpicky thing because we obviously know DeAndre Hopkins is super talented. He's come back on fire, and he's probably not many people stopping him. But I think at number 1 this week, maybe there's a couple better options below him. The Seattle Seahawks defense has been better than expected, and they actually are ranked pretty high against the pass coming into this week. They were ranked 3rd against wide receiver based on ESPN. They have averaged 20 points to the wide receiver position when the NFL average is about 26. They've been opportunistic. We know Tariq Woolen has been playing fantastic, and I'm not saying he's a shadow cat. That's not the necessity, but I don't know that he has to be. So, I may like Justin Jefferson a little bit more at number 1 this week going in. I may like Tyreek Hill a little bit more at number 1 or 2. And I think AJ Brown has a pretty good matchup too. I don't remember who you were showing there, but again, this is nitpicky. So at Houston, they don't allow many touchdowns. They play pretty solid on the back end, but that would be a reaction to how great he was against Pittsburgh coming in and what they like to do. But again, this is nitpicky. Number 1, I think, is high. It's DeAndre Hopkins, so slightly I get it.
I'll just say this. It's great. You're right. Everything you said is factual about what the Seahawks have given up. Everything you said has been factual about what the Seahawks have given up. But there's a but. They've played the Giants, the Chargers without Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, the Arizona Cardinals without DeAndre Hopkins, the Saints with no Michael Thomas, the Detroit Lions, the Atlanta Falcons. Those are not teams with wide receivers. This is not
the Lions.
You said what?
Was Amon-Ra balling when they played the Lions?
This isn't the Lions. This is DeAndre motherfucking Hopkins. I don't care if it's Tariq Woolen, a wool coat. It don't matter. DeAndre Hopkins is going for 10 and 100 and a tutty, no matter who in the hell is out there. I don't care who it is. It don't matter. I want to give credit to the Seahawks pass defense. They have been playing well, but I'm sorry. Guarding Wan'Dale Robinson, Chris Olave, Khalif Raymond, and those guys is not something that I'm going to be too proud of. The toughest team they've played was the 49ers, and we even know that they can't throw the ball like Kyler Murray to DeAndre Hopkins. Cortland Sutton in Denver and Russell Wilson, stop it. They are playing good, and they're doing what they're supposed to do, but they have not seen a receiver, nor have they seen a quarterback like Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins in that connection. D-Hop for 10-plus catches, D-Hop for 100 yards, D-Hop for at least a touchdown. He's the number 1 wide receiver this week in my rankings, and that's exactly where he belongs. Tyreek Hill, number great. Tyreek Hill, I think you can put Tyreek Hill at number 1 every week. The difference here is he's also on the road in Chicago. I think that's a little bit tougher. A.J. Brown's on a short week at Houston, and you did mention not giving up touchdowns, and I think that's big for A.J. Brown because he's a big play guy. I think he'll be fine. As you can see, I got him ranked 4, but just tempered my expectations a little bit because I think Philly gets up early. The running game, Houston has a terrible run defense. Maybe there's not as much passing down work in that game. Give me some DeAndre Hopkins all over everybody.
I need to talk about Keenan Allen at 7, not for my own personal thoughts, but the fact that he's coming. No, it matters.
Wait. I want you to be on the.
You want me to be on the screen? I'm here.
He wants you to look at his photo.
Screen for this. Come back on the screen. All right. Listen, when we did running backs, you talked about Josh Jacobs. Yep. Like this, you always your eyes go to your players every single week. I don't think you recognize it, but you do every time. Your eyes go to
Travis Etienne.
No. Don't try to throw in the.
I don't own Raheem Mostert.
Stop.
I don't own Michael Carter. So out of the ratio right now of players I've talked about versus
listen
players
to what
that
I'm saying. Listen to what I'm saying. I know you talk about other players. There is every week. And does he not, AJ? Am I wrong? Am I wrong?
He's good at it, though. He picks the ones that, are high profile enough, but have enough questions on them. And, it's normally 3rd in the picking order. So that one.
I'm telling you, Vinny, I listen. I'm really good at listening on this show and paying attention to what people say. You do it, and I don't think you mean to do it. I don't think you do it consciously. I think your subconscious mind's like, Vinny, let's ask these questions because we need to know. I just think it's a subconscious thing you do.
All right, so Amon-Ra St. Brown at 8 versus the Packers. Cooper Kupp at 9.
Hey, wait,
Mike
I kind
Evans
of want to
at
know
10,
about Keenan Allen.
Chris Godwin at 11, and T. Higgins at 12. Going to the wide receiver twos here
Oh
now.
my God! Now he's
Jalen
salty.
Waddle,
Look at
13.
he's salty.
Unbelievable.
You
Let's
got him
talk
in his
Devontae
emotions.
Smith then, or Chris
Wait,
Olave.
wait,
Let's
look,
talk Gabe
can you-
Davis.
can
Let's
you
talk
go- can you
anybody
go
else
back?
but my players.
Can you go back? Can you go back? It's not about not talking to your players. You're just really
It's
funny.
just funny.
That's all. I think it's a good question. I think the Keenan Allen question is a good question. I just found it funny that you went to him.
Hilarious.
Not Cooper Kupp at 9, but let's go Keenan Allen at 7. All right, listen.
Well, we're
Keenan
working
Allen's
our way down.
Yep.
That's how I do things.
Keenan Allen at 7 against Atlanta with no, we talked about no Casey Hayward, no AJ Terrell, worst pass defense in the league. We saw DJ Moore and PJ Walker connected. This is strictly about is Keenan Allen healthy? And as you'll get through the rankings, you'll see I have another Chargers receiver in there as well in Josh Palmer. I just like the matchup here for the Chargers, a team that likes to throw the football, heavy volume. You saw Austin Eckler at the top spot for me. I just like the matchup here for Keenan Allen. Obviously, there's questions, but he's coming off a bye. I'm praying for you. I'm hoping that he's back healthy because if he's not after the bye week, I have some concerns. So maybe you get a DeAndre Swift situation where you're waiting a week, but
Yeah,
I don't know. I think Keenan Allen's.
He didn't practice again Tuesday, but that's not or Monday, so that's not. I mean, coming out of the
not
bye,
great. It's not great.
like that. That's the thing. It's coming out of the bye. You're like, okay, if you don't practice Monday, if you played on Sunday and you didn't practice Monday, you're a little banged up. That's fine. You don't practice.
Let me
like,
know what his status is Thursday.
That's what I normally feel like for most players, but he's had the bye week and he's still not practicing on Monday. I'm a little bit more concerned.
Yeah.
Do you think he re-aggravated it? I mean, like they said it was tight in the game. They pulled him out in like 32, like a couple.
Well, they said they didn't want to re-aggravate it. I'm like,
right.
Well,
I don't know. I don't trust that.
We talked about it last season. It was one of the big storylines last season. These soft tissue injuries just lingering, no matter what, they just linger. And really, that's more of the reason why I wanted to bring up Keenan Allen, because you not only have him like back on in your top 12, top 24 wide receivers, you have him at 7. Like that's very high over prominent receivers who have been back healthy, playing, guys like Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, T. Higgins. Like you have him over these guys. You're not only comfortable with his matchup, but you're comfortable with his, like, as of right now, didn't practice Monday. You're well aware of this, and you still have him at 7. So you're thinking in your mind, okay, you're expecting to see Keenan Allen come back to form, because normally
Keenan Allen's on the field, I'm expecting that he is, I don't say 100%, but he is playing a full complement of snaps. And if that's the case, then he's my number 7 wide receiver. That's really what it boils down to. Could there be a situation where he's still a little bit banged up? Sure. But we saw DK Metcalf banged up last week. We saw Tyler Lockett banged up last week. And those guys still produce when they're on the field. If he's on the field on Sunday and he's playing, he's going to be my number 7 wide receiver because I think it's a great matchup.
All right.
DK Metcalf is superhuman, man. I don't get it. I mean, I'm sure Pete Carroll diagnosed whatever his injury was incorrectly. But for it to be something like that, where it could have been a patella, something saying it's weak, and then he still come out and have the day he had, going from possibly going on IR to possibly being out the week to, I think he might be good to go to game time decision to in there catching touchdowns and being a man amongst boys. Luckily, where I sat him, I had players go off left and right, so I was okay. And I do think it was the right decision to still do it, because there was a very good chance he could have came in and dudded you. But for him, like, so that was the name that I was thinking of when you talk about Keenan Allen. If he's going to be on the field at this point at that injury, it's because they think he's ready to go. The same way they did DK Metcalf, they actually put him on the field. He wasn't really limited, so to speak, because they knew he was ready to go and he performed. So, back to Keenan Allen, I can agree that if he's actually playing against the soft secondary as of right now of the Atlanta Falcons, yeah, he should have a good day. I mean, Justin Herbert's been waiting for this man to get back so they can get that chemistry and see if they can ride on to the second half of the season.
Let's talk Chris Olave, Aaron, a player that you have been. It's not necessarily someone like we're beyond the point of what you said about him in the offseason. We're in the season now. He's the wide receiver 1 for this team. You have him at 18 against Baltimore, a defense that has been bouncing back and playing really well as of late. You have him at 18. What went into that one?
I mean, he's just going to get all the volume, and we can't mistake fantasy value for my feelings about what they do to a football team and the impact they have on a football team as far as winning and losing. I still don't think Chris Olave is that great. I'll be honest. However, from a fantasy perspective, I think he's going to get the volume, and when you get the volume, you get the opportunities. You're going to put up numbers. I don't care what offense you're in. I don't care who you are. If you get targeted and you're on the field, you're going to put up numbers. Like that's been the case in the NFL for a long time. We've seen fantasy players come out of nowhere that aren't the best fantasy players because they've received opportunities. And that's really what fantasy is all about. How many opportunities you get and what you do with those opportunities. And he's played okay. Like he's played fine. 5 catches, 52 yards. It's a double-digit game. He's been in double digits every game except for week 1. He's playing a high volume of snaps. He's seen the most targets on the team. And in an offense that needs weapons and needs production, I think he's a solid play. I think his upside is limited. I do think it's capped at a certain point just because of the offense he plays in and the impact that Alvin Kamara has on that team and what they like to do in the red zone with Taysom Hill and stuff. But if you're looking for a guy you just throw into your lineup every week and you know you're probably getting 5 for 50, 5 for 60, 6 for 70, and that's the worst they're going to do with that high of a floor, I think you're okay, and I think Chris Olave can give you that.
Yep. Tyler Boyd at 19, Terry McLaurin 20, Gabe Davis 21, Juju 22, Josh Palmer, who we're going to talk about a little bit, at 23, and Devin Duvernay at 24 with no Rashad Bateman now in Baltimore. This is it's Devin Duvernay's time to step up as the wide receiver and the lead guy for Lamar Jackson. Let's pivot over to the quarterback position. Patrick Mahomes, number 1, surprise. Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson is your top 6 quarterbacks. AJ, it's quarterback 9 on Aaron's list that has you thinking. What you got going on with Tua Tagovailoa?
Yeah, I guess this, again, funny enough, I'm going to say it becomes a matchup. I just have a feeling that this Chicago defense is not going to be itself without Roquan Smith and Robert Quinn this week. I know their pass defense has been better, but the way Miami likes to move the ball, sure, they throw the ball deep to Tyreek Hill, but it's kind of like playing a little game. Let's knock out the middle of the field. Let's attack the middle of the field, and as soon as you come up, we're going to throw it deep on you. And when you don't have a guy like Roquan Smith, a leader in that game on that team by example and vocally, I don't know that they perform the way you want them to. So I have a feeling that they're going to get a lot of underneath stuff with Jalen Waddle. I feel like they're going to get a lot of mid-range with Gesicki, and then of course that'll open up the deep ball for Tyreek Hill. And if they can't, stop everything ahead, and the moment they move up is how they get susceptible deep. I think Tua has another avenue for a really good outing this week. I know Chicago's pass defense has been good. I feel like Roquan Smith was a much bigger loss, and we're just going to start seeing it, whether it's in regular NFL or in fantasy.
Where are you bumping him up to? And if these are your rankings, what do you think? Where would Tua be?
7. I mean, I'm not going crazy on anything. I mean, you look at the guys on the other side, and they all bring to the table what Tua doesn't, and with rushing ability, or in the case of Justin Herbert, if he doesn't want to win, he has a great matchup coming up. Kirk Cousins at Washington, they've been playing better. I'm not saying they're world beaters. Yeah, right. And we know what Geno Smith brings to the table, but this season. So, it's not like I don't think he's the number 1 quarterback on the week or anything, but I just think he has a good shot to have a very good week. So maybe put him up at 7.
Yeah, this is more about consistency. Tua, from a fantasy perspective, again, I got to make sure I clarify this. Tua hasn't been the most consistent fantasy player throughout his career. And despite what the matchup I do think is actually a good matchup, I don't think the Bears secondary really stopping any Miami Dolphins people. But it is in Chicago. I don't know what that weather's like. If it's windy that day, if it's rain, snow, who knows what's going on in Chicago. It tends to be a little bit tougher to play in those type of places and produce numbers in those type of places. I do think he'll be fine, which is why he's a top 10 play for me. But we got to remember, outside of the big week in Baltimore and the huge week last week against Detroit, he's been pretty pedestrian from a fantasy perspective. He's only every touchdown every game he's played in, he's had one touchdown or no touchdowns outside of the game. All of his fantasy touchdowns have come from 2 games, the majority of 2 games, Baltimore and then last week against Detroit. There's really no rushing threat there with Tua. So his upside is capped. I think Kirk Cousins is more of a consistent, surefire play. 2 touchdowns in 4 games this year. Hasn't thrown a pick in 3 weeks. So I think he's more solid than that. And then the way Geno's been playing, it's hard to argue Geno and what that offense has been able to do and what they're capable of doing. We've seen, again, just 3 picks on the year for Geno Smith, multiple touchdowns in every game this year that he's thrown a touchdown. He's had multiple touchdowns, and it's a good matchup against Arizona. Quarterback 7 on the year. So again, he's been much more consistent than Tua from a fantasy perspective. Even despite Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, I think they end up with big days, but Tua not a big day, if that makes sense. Because those guys often go for 10 for 150, but no touchdowns. Or maybe, Waddle gets in the end zone a couple of times, but Tua's 280 yards and a touchdown, 2 touchdowns and a pick. And it ends up being a good day, but it limits that upside that he has.
Imagine if Tua would stop underthrowing Tyreek Hill. Imagine he hit him in stride every now and then.
Yeah, well, I'll take the underthrow over an overthrow any day.
You ain't overthrowing the cheetah. He'll just accelerate.
You can't catch an overthrown ball. That's all I know.
I think either way you can't catch either one. Well, I guess you can.
What?
I don't know. The math doesn't check. The math just doesn't add up to me in that. Maybe it's
you have anybody say that you don't overthrow a receiver, you underthrow it. No, 2 things happen when you underthrow a receiver. Number 1, they can actually make a play on the ball. And number 2, you often get pass interference called. There is the number 1 rule of a quarterback is you don't do Jimmy G to Emmanuel Sanders in the Super Bowl. Ever.
All right.
Ever.
All right. Well, one last look at your quarterbacks here. Justin Fields at 11. It's Justin Fields time, right, Aaron? It's no.
This is bye week time. That's what it is. It's bye. We got 6 teams on buys. We got Dak Prescott's on a bye. We got
that's the only quarterback that would be on this list that is on bye. You wouldn't put Jacoby Brissett here. You wouldn't put Russ here. You're not putting Daniel Jones here. Oh, maybe Daniel Jones.
I'd put Russell Wilson over Justin Fields.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. So that's where we're at. I think this is the last week we see Aaron Rodgers top 12. I think this is what I was right on the Tom Brady one. I think Aaron Rodgers might be the next veteran quarterback to fly off the QB 12 rank.
Against Detroit, and you just sneak in at a QB1 on bye week with all these quarterbacks. It's not good. If they get a Brandon Cooks or somebody like that today, does that change your thought process?
You should watch our show.
The recaps from last night.
Yeah, I said it moves the needle a little bit. More football move though than fantasy move for me. I think it moves the needle on what the Packers could do offensively from a real football standpoint, more so than fantasy. I think the days of Aaron Rodgers being an elite fantasy option are gone, but I don't agree that this is the last day you'll see him as a top 12 quarterback, because I think that's just absurd.
I think maybe he'll pop back in the top 12, but ranking him as top 12 quarterback.
I'm sure I'll rank Aaron Rodgers again as a top 12 quarterback, and I'm sure I'll rank Tom Brady as the top 12 quarterback at some point.
Well, you know what?
Like,
I'm sure
if you think these guys are never going to perform at the top 12 level again, then I don't know what to tell you. I promise you.
I guess I should have said consistently a top 12 quarterback. Oh. I guess I should say consistently.
Well, yeah, they haven't been that all year. I can agree with that.
Yeah. One other thing, AJ, you should probably listen to the show earlier on, because I did already ask about the Brandon Cooks fantasy impact of Aaron Rodgers if that move does happen. Get out of here. Top 12 tight ends. Top 12 tight ends. Kelsey, Ertz, Everett, Pitts, Higbee, Goddard, top 6 tight ends. There is no George Kittle this week. There is no Muthas lose Pat Freiermuth. There is no Dalton Schultz. But there is a Mark Andrews sliding to number 7 on your list, Aaron. What is this the injury concern coming in?
Yeah, I just don't know if he's playing. I doubt he's going to play, to be honest.
I sense a theme here.
It's probably going to be Isaiah Likely this week. And what?
You think Mark Andrews doesn't? Oh shit! God damn it! Fuck me.
He's excited. He said Isaiah Likely. His ears popped up. He's like, "Ooh!"
Oh
He
no,
has Mark
I have
Andrews and Isaiah
Mark,
Likely.
Yeah, I said Mark
Yeah.
Andrews too. Damn it.
Yeah. No, that you're right. That's the whole
That's
point
the
for Mark
yeah.
Andrews being there. This is about the injury, and I'm not sure if he's going to play. And if he doesn't play, you're going to slide in Isaiah Likely, but that upside won't be the same. It'll be a little bit different. Just slightly. I think Isaiah Likely would fill in as a top 10 tight end. I think that's a good fill-in play. You'll definitely be the first person ever that had a handcuffed tight end that got to play. I'm like, nobody does that, but whatever.
In your league that has 45 fucking roster spots, yeah, I'm gonna take my best players backup so that I can make sure that I'm safe.
We don't have 45 roster spots. We actually don't have that many roster spots. We start a lot of players, but there's not that many bench spots to where you can just be handcuffing every player.
Do you not count starters in your roster spots? Is that not a thing?
What I'm saying is you don't have enough bench spots to roster handcuffs for your star players. That's my point. Because you have to have depth for bye weeks and stuff. That's the point.
There's a lot of players on our teams, and that's why I have.
You are like,
and now I'm glad you froze. And now because I'm all out of fab,
right now,
I'm very happy that I have Isaiah Likely because I wouldn't be able to pay big money for. I actually have 3 tight ends, I think, on my team right now, or 2 tight ends. Yeah, I have 3 tight ends on my team.
You're an idiot. Now you are Dylan.
I have Andrews, I have Likely, and I have Greg Dulcich. So yeah, that's my life. That is my life, and yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Back to your tight ends here, though. Mark Andrews at 7. Do we want to talk Kyle Pitts at 4? AJ, is this the thing?
I mean, he had a good game. I'm happy for him. You see the hat I wear? I mean, we talked about this. He's got potential. He's got upside.
Everybody out there, go get Kyle Pitts. It's probably
go get him. He's nowhere to go.
Too late now.
Well, it's probably a week too late. That's my point. If you were listening to the Muxia 3 weeks ago, I told you just go get Kyle Pitts now. Just go get him. You should have already had him on your team. People that want to panic after 6, 7, 8 weeks because the guy's not getting the ball thrown to him, eventually the ball's going to get thrown to him. He's the best damn offensive weapon they got. They're going to throw it to him, and they're going to throw it to him again next week, and they're going to throw it to him again the week after that. Is he going to have a dud week again? Perhaps. There's going to be weeks where he's a dud. But the fact of the matter is that every damn tight end in the NFL has dud weeks. So outside of Travis Kelce, there is no tight end that you're going to be like surefire going to have a great game. So if that's the case, take the players with the most upside in that position of you grouping because they will be the difference maker when it matters the most. Go get Kyle Pitts if you still have an opportunity to get him. I'd trade anybody that wants any of those tight ends. I'm trade. You want Pat Freiermuth because he's been good? Take him. You want this guy and that guy? Take him. You can have any of those guys. Give me Kyle Pitts. I'm good. And if it ain't, I would trade. If you have Darren Waller, trade him for Kyle Pitts right now. If you have anybody but Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, and perhaps George Kittle.
That's it. Yeah.
Perhaps George Kittle. I like what I've seen from George Kittle, especially now with Christian McCaffrey and how that offense has opened up. I would say he's back to being in that top 4 group, and those 4 tight ends are the ones I'm taking. Everybody else you can keep. Dallas Goedert's a close 5th.
Not wrong. That's our tight ends. That's our rankings. Let's cap the show off with a little waiver wire ads that you guys need. These are must-add players for Aaron in week 9, and this is the unveil. Matt Collins, Jaylen Warren, Kenyon Drake, Josh Palmer, Rondale Moore, the 5 players that you must add this week in your week 9 waivers. Go out and get them. I put the right percentages there for you, Aaron, partially because you sent them to me like that, so that's half the battle. But take us through your waiver wire ads.
Yeah, starting at 5, Matt Collins he's been pretty steady, man. Even with the return of Hunter Renfrow, Matt Collins has been pretty good. He had a couple of bad weeks when he played Houston and Kansas City, but he had 7 targets this past week. And this is when the Raiders didn't do anything. 7 catches, 64 yards. Didn't do anything quite the week before. But I like his role in this offense as a guy on the opposite side of Davante Adams because so much attention is going to be paid to Davante Adams. And as long as why can't I think of his name? As long as Darren Waller's out, he's the third option in that passing game, and I think that's an okay option. So again, if you're looking for bye week fillers, double-digit games the last 2 weeks, go ahead and get Mack Hollins in your lineup. I don't know that the Raiders are going to continue to go to him, but he's proven that he can make an impact. Jaylen Warren is more of that continued stash play. I've talked about him before. His explosiveness, I think eventually when the Steelers are out of it, maybe they mess around and just bench. Not bench, but sit Najee Harris so he can rest up that foot. He's had double-digit points in 2 of the last 4 weeks. He had 6 carries for 50 yards, 3 catches this past week. I think that role will increase, and he's obviously the more explosive player. So maybe somebody down the stretch that could end up being a league winner if Najee Harris misses some time. Kenyon Drake, this is just by sheer opportunity with Gus Edwards possibly missing time, and then you have J.K. Dobbins who's out. Obviously, Justice Hill is not an every down guy, and you can't really use him that way. I think Kenyon Drake is more of that every down guy. Baltimore's a good rushing offense. He's going to get the opportunities. Go get Kenyon Drake. And then the last 2, Josh Palmer and Rondale Moore. Again, about opportunities. Mike Williams out. Keenan Allen's banged up. We don't know what he's going to be. Only 36% owned. He definitely needs to be owned in more leagues. He's coming off a concussion, but he had the bye week. He should be coming back this week in a good matchup. I think you get him into your lineups this week. He's played every game this season more than 50% of the snaps. He's been over 70% of snaps in every game except for 1. He's had 6 targets in every game except for 2. Like, he's been on the field. Some of those big games haven't been there, but he's also scored in double digits 3 out of 6 games. So I think he's a nice play there to pick up if you haven't already. And Rondale Moore has just saw his usage go up and up and up. And I think he's a nice waiver wire target there in the Arizona offense that now is going to have to be paying attention to DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins is obviously torching people, as he's going to do this week. Teams are paying attention to that, and Rondale Moore is that guy that comes in and gets those shorter targets but has that run after catch ability. We saw 7 and 92 and a touchdown last week, and I think his production will continue to grow throughout the season.
So here's what you do. Arizona, and this is for real football here. When Hollywood Brown comes back, move Rondale Moore into the running back position and start running the ball more, okay? And now have Hollywood and DeAndre Hopkins and Rondale Moore, and you're utilizing everybody, and you're making it happen. That could be the key to your success, Arizona, okay? Run the ball and give it to Rondale Moore if you have to. If you like him so much, use him as your running back. Do something.
Thank God Vinny's good at graphics and producing.
I am average at that as well. But that does it for another episode of the Fantasy Drive presented by the Sac City Podcast. We'll be back again live tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, giving you our Week 9 power rankings. Of course, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of risers, a lot of fallers, some heavy hitters, some heavy fallers. Something along those lines. It's going to be a great show. You're not going to want to miss it live at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And for your fantasy needs, we are back at noon on Sunday, live answering your fantasy questions, your lineup decisions that you have, everything to help you win your week and win your championships. We're here live at noon.
I got one thing.
Sundays.
I got one thing for that. Also, YouTube did something special. They created a community tab on our YouTube page. If you have fantasy questions that you want answered, go type them in there and we will answer them, or I will answer them, or somebody will answer them. So if you have any fantasy questions throughout the week, whether you should be looking to pick guys up or make trades or whatever it is, go to the YouTube page, click on that community tab. And then again, we'll be posting graphics there, promoting shows for when we're going to give you fantasy stuff. But also I'll be answering questions on that forum. If you don't want to ask the question in the video itself, you can ask the question there and I'll be more than happy to answer it on there.
There you have it. Join us tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern Time for our power rankings. For my best friend Aaron Mukes and for your boy AJ Johnson, I am me. We will see you tomorrow.
Peace out.
Holla.
We know we are a much better team